Are you the one I've been waiting for? You might be. I hope so. It's been so many cycles since I was her. Do I even still remember Hope? I wasn't sure you'd ever turn up. The odds just kept getting longer. I guess I've been losing faith, while they've been gaining power. You have to reach me. Everything depends on your survival. Master this world. Make allies of its many creatures. Grow your strength and skill. Explore this place like I did so long ago. Put the pieces together and find me, survivor. You may be the only one who can.
It's about high time that I made this video, honestly. On top of that, it's also the perfect excuse to immerse myself once again in the amazing Ark story. I also launched channel memberships. You should join, because I like money, and you can pay me to keep doing this to myself. But all of that aside, gather around, friends, because I'm about to tell you the story of how Chufi overcame bugs, crashes, and even a blue screen of death in order to spend 100 days in Ark Survival Ascended. I'd say this is breathtaking, but this isn't my first time loading into the game, so that would be a lie. I immediately got started by picking up rocks and collecting some berries. Holy cow, look at all these colors. Imagine all the cool drugs, imagine all the cool dyes I can make with this. Dyes, yeah. After I made myself some basic tools, I slaughtered some dodos and tried to cross a river, and for some reason I completely forgot that piranhas were a thing. Now, unfortunately, I had made it most of the way across the river on the second attempt, but I spawned on the wrong side, so I tried to cross the river again and paid the price. I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know why I thought that would work. It's been 10 minutes and I've died twice. My grandpa used to say that the third time is the charm, and honestly, it seemed to be the case here because I got my stuff back. But then again, my grandpa's dead, so I don't know if it's relevant anymore. Maybe this was just a coincidence. I grabbed some explorer notes for some experience and then began setting up my base of operations. Since I was building with mostly wood foundations, I had the levels to make myself a forge by the end of the day. As I ventured back out into the night to get myself some early game metal, I stumbled across this level 125 parasaur. Alright, put him on the list. To be enslaved. Speaking of slavery, I came across this small Dilo family and naturally killed the parents and stole the child. You know, you would think the kid would be more upset about this, but look at the way he's running. He just looks so happy to see me. On day 2, as I was out collecting metal by the water, I found another lone Dilo baby and took him under my wing. Now I had 2 of the little guys. I named them Dilly and Dillo. I made a smithy and then upgraded to a metal pickaxe and then went out to find even more metal. I also knocked out the parasaur while I was out and about because now I had the means to do so. I gathered some more metal while I waited for him to finish taming, and once it was done, I named him Carlisle. Then it was back to building. You know I'm not content until I have a pretty base. Day 3, I got my hands on a sickle, which meant my fiber troubles were over. Yippee! Most of the day I spent on construction, but I did tame a compy at one point so he could have a little shoulder friend. Then I found another unattended Dilo baby. I named him Dill Pickle. All of day 4 was spent putting down the foundation for my base. Man, having to harvest all of these things with an axe is so boring. I can't wait to get a Dodic. Day 5, I finished the main platform and began work on the walls. Nothing really of note is gonna happen for these next few days. You know how I get when I start building a base. Later on, I went on another metal run because my metal tools would inevitably break and I would need to, you know, repair them awesome. Day 6, I grabbed some more metal just for good measure, and then went back to work on the base. It was starting to look really good. Day 7, I'm still working on the base, obviously, and the same goes for day 8. But while I'm at it, I might as well mention that they really improved the building in this game. On day 9, for whatever reason, my Dilos decided to pick a fight with a trike that was nearby. My compy was in the mix too, and they all lost. Whoa, natural selection, happening right before my very eyes. I love science. Now, I wasn't too upset about the Dilos, but one of the trikes ended up hitting my house, so I wasn't gonna take that lying down and began working on killing them. It was a tedious process, but I soon got my revenge. I put some of the finishing touches onto my base. Now it was all done except for the window holes. While I was out and about again, I found a level 85 Pteranodon and knocked him out. I didn't really have anything to do while I waited for him to tame, so I just kinda sat there and waited. Day 10, I filled in all the windows on my base and then went out looking for turtles so I could kill them for keratin. My Parasaur may not be strong in terms of a battle mount, but it definitely is stronger than the turtles. Listen guys, don't feel bad for the turtles. It was either me or the plastic straws. Day 11, I had enough keratin to craft myself a Pteranodon saddle. I explored some of the mountain areas so I could get explorer notes and look to see if I could find any high-level Argentavis. While I was at it, I got a bit of crystal so I could make myself a spyglass. I just didn't want to get up close and personal if I didn't have to. Let's be honest, I wasn't really impressed with anything I saw anyway. All the levels were pretty lame. I also realized that looking for an RG right now was kind of pointless because I didn't have the means to knock one out, so I went back home and grabbed myself a crossbow and dropped any extra weight that I didn't need. I continued my search for an RG, and it wasn't until much later that day when I found this level 105. I decided not to safari tame it like an idiot this time and began making the components to a trap, but night fell and it got too cold and I began ice cubing. So I retreated to the beach and then continued making components to the trap. RG, you better not go anywhere. I'll find you. When I was heading back to the location where I had found the 105 RG, I found this green drop and it had oil! Oil, baby! Day 13, I set up the trap and began trying to bait the RG inside. It took a couple tries, but it finally worked. I had a real scare knocking it out though, because I got pretty much within a few shots of actually killing it before it passed out, so I would have been sad. I went around on my Pteranodon and killed the lower level RGs for their prime meat, and then tamed the 105. I named her Artemis. Mythology names just go super hard in this game, you can't change my mind. I slowly began making my way home, killing anything that had chitin or keratin, which was mostly turtles. Day 14, I'm still slowly making my way along the coastline on my way home, killing every single turtle I come across. Finally, after killing this trilobite, I had enough chitin and keratin to make myself an RG saddle. Once I got home, I tried playing around with the water system a little bit, and thanks to my buddy Paper, I was able to figure it out. It's Bluetooth water. Literally Bluetooth water. No pipes, no nothing. It just teleports, I guess. Now that I had water going on day 15, I put down a large crop plot so I could grow potatoes. I crafted an ankylosaurus saddle and flew over to Herbivore Island to find myself one. I ended up settling on this level 65. I really didn't care, I just needed something to hit metal rocks better than I could. I also tamed a Phiomia while I was waiting for the Yankee to tame, and just needed a pooper on my side. Then for whatever reason, as night fell, it got really cold, so I set up a couple campfires just so I wouldn't die. On day 16, the ankylosaurus tamed, and I got myself a lot of metal before heading back home to smelt the stuff. I kept the extra stone so I could make myself spark powder. While I waited for the metal, I went around looking for beaver dams. I got tons of wood and cementing paste. I put most of that wood back into the forges so they could keep burning, and then crafted myself a fabricator. Day 17, I found 2 more beaver dams and stole their goods. Back home, I set up 2 greenhouse walls, which was all I was able to make with the crystal I had, but I wanted my crops to grow better. But now I needed electronics so I could make myself a generator, so it was time to go looking for silica pearls. Once I got to the spot, I spent some time swimming around, looking and picking up any clam I could find. Of course, I nearly froze to death doing this endeavor, so I started to fly back home. I now had 150 silica pearls to my name, which wasn't a lot, but it was better than no silica pearls, so I'm not gonna complain. I did cheer up a little bit when I found this drop on the way home with a decent ichthyosaurus saddle inside. Day 18, I crafted as many electronics as I possibly could, which was only 57, but it would be more than what I needed for that moment. While those were crafting, I went out to go see if I could find any high-level useful dinos to tame. It didn't take me too long to find this level 80 Rex stomping down the beach, so I immediately got to work building trap components. Day 19, I placed the trap and caught a Rex. Notice how I said caught a Rex instead of the Rex, because it turns out this was a level 15. I had somehow been duped. So I killed the dud and then went looking for the level 80, but instead I found a level 90. Leading this thing to the trap was a pain though, and getting it in the trap was even worse, but eventually I did manage to get it in and knocked it out. While I went around gathering prime to tame the thing, I found a level 110 male Rex, which was exactly what I needed because the Rex in the trap was a female. I was just kind of goofing off while I waited for the Rex to tame, so I killed this brontosaurus and stole its level 60 child. Day 20, the Rex finished taming, so I cryoed it and got ready to trap the 110. And before I go and get those inevitable comments asking me how I was able to get cryopods, this was a mod before they actually added the actual cryopods into the game. Baiting the level 110 Rex into the trap proved to be even more annoying than the previous one, but I eventually managed to do it. I honestly couldn't believe my luck when I saw that it had a child. In other words, as soon as this thing tamed, I would get 2 Rexes for the price of 1. A lot of my trank arrows were spent and my crossbow almost broken, so I had to go home to replenish my stock. Before I reached home though, I did kill this alpha raptor. Somehow my luck only improved on my way back though, because close to the trap there was a level 140 male. I saw no reason to keep the level 110, which was also a male, so I killed it and then tamed its kid. Then you know the drill, I trapped the 140 and knocked it out. Things got a little bit dicey while I waited for it to tame though, because I did get attacked by this alpha raptor. While I waited for the Rex to tame on day 21, I went back home and began raising kids. I quickly noticed that in this new version, kids want attention a lot more often for the same amount of imprinting quality. I didn't have a whole bunch of time on my hands between instances of taking care of the kids, but when I did have free moments, I was setting up more large crop plots to grow more veggies. The level 140 had finished taming, so I went back to cryo him and then snagged a level 80 Doedicurus on the way home. I bred my highest level Rexes and then hatched my first Rex egg of the playthrough. The rest of the day was spent raising the Rex and setting up a compost bin so I could make fertilizer. I still hadn't finished my greenhouse, so on day 23 I went to the nearby lava cave so I could get a bunch of crystal. I collected more than I thought I would need, and on my way back home I got even more crystal from a drop. Now that I had the resources to do so, I made myself a perfect spyglass, which is pretty much the same thing as an awesome spyglass. But now I could check where the levels were allocated for all my tames, so of course the first thing I checked was the really good Rex that I had tamed, and 43 levels in health, 39 in melee. So I continued building my greenhouse, but as it turns out, I didn't actually have what I needed to finish it, so it was time for another crystal run. Alright, note to self, get as much as I can carry, and then I might have enough. I finished my greenhouse and then left so I could get some pelt to go into the snow, but then I got distracted by this yellow drop with organic polymer. Also, just cause I could, I killed the Spino, cause he's a loser and I hate him. Now that I actually had polymer, I went back home and crafted myself a couple of canteens. Remember kids, stay hydrated. This is a threat. Day 25, I tried to continue my search for pelt, but then I got distracted again when I saw a couple of nice level Thylas. Of course, I immediately got to work setting up the trap, which took a fair amount of time, and once it was done, I went looking for the level 100 that I had seen earlier. Where did this thing go? I saw him! He was there! Where is he? I eventually did find the Thyla on the same tree as a level 90. As careful as I was trying to be, I almost got jumped by the level 90 while I was trying to bait the level 100 down. Fortunately, I left unscathed with the level 100 and dropped her in the trap and knocked it out. I forgot to bring narcotic with me, so I had to rush around and get a bunch of narco berries to make sure it didn't wake up before it tamed. Once that Thyla tamed, it was time to tame another one, so as I was baiting this one off a tree... Ooh, right. Hello? What in Newton's law of motion did I just see? I took the level 90 back to the trap and began taming it with cooked prime meat. Just like the first one, I had no narcotic on me, so I had to go get a bunch of narco berries to keep it asleep. When I had enough narco berries, I kind of just sat there. This was being live streamed on my Twitch, which you should follow by the way, links in the description. So while I waited, I gaslit my chat into thinking getting coal for Christmas was a good thing.
No. See, if Santa gives you coal in your stocking, you gotta make him rethink everything. Because think about it, if he's spiteful and keeps giving you coal, what do you do with coal, chat? You burn it. You make electricity, chat. You rake in the cash money from that coal, chat. And then what does that do? It adds to global warming. What does global warming do? It melts the polar caps. Chat, it melts the polar caps, chat.
Day 28, my kitties had a baby. It was currently too cold to hatch the Rex egg, so I just raised my Thyla, and then once the sun rose, it was warm enough to finally hatch the Rex egg. I made myself a Rex saddle so I could get some more meat and raise the new Rex baby. Day 29, I went on a metal run with my Archie and Enki. When I got home, I crafted a Thyla saddle and took my newly raised cat out for some levels. This included killing a Megalodon, just kinda cause I could, I guess. While I was in the water on day 30, I found this high-level Ichthyosaurus and tamed it since I already had a decent saddle back at home. On my way back, I decided to hit up my first artifact cave, the Cave of the Hunter. Is it just me or are there more bugs in here than I remember there being? I really don't like this. My Thyla was too powerful for them though, so I ended up snagging myself the artifact and a cave drop with an ascendant bow and Stegosaurus saddle. As I tried to make my way back to the entrance of the cave, I hit another explorer's note and then killed another horde of spiders. The resulting experience was amazing. Day 31, I returned home and organized my loot. I hatched another Rex egg, but it was kind of a dud, so I killed the baby. I then set off to scout a place where I could build my final base. Despite my recent history, I am taking this playthrough seriously, and I'm gonna take my time too, even if it takes me 200 days to beat this map. And if I'm doing 200 days on a map, I definitely want a really cool base to go with it. On day 32, I decided that this pretty little hidden lake area would be the perfect place to set up my final base. I would turn this entire area into a fortress, a huge wall all the way around, behemoth gates at the access points, and of course, a main keep. Once I got back home, I built myself a raft. I would use this to transfer all my structures and heavy loot all the way up to my new base when I was ready. Day 33, I set up some more storage on my raft and crafted some more trinks. Then I cryoed both my Dodic and a Rex, and then flew north to the border where the snow meets the forest. It didn't take me too long to find a high-level mammoth, a level 90, and a level 100. I only needed one mammoth though, so I killed the 90 and knocked out the level 100 with trank darts. As I was taming, I realized I had forgotten to make a saddle, so I went back home to make one. Day 34, I flew back with the mammoth saddle and waited for it to tame. Now, I haven't really been showing any of it because all it really is a frozen screen, but I had crashed so much by this point, probably about 16 times. Just thought you should know. Now that I had a tamed mammoth, I could get a whole bunch of wood, thatch, and with a Dodic, stone. So I began setting up a little structure right next to the lake. There was a super annoying Diplodocus nearby, so I set my Rex and Argy on him. Take that, idiot. All of day 35 was spent laying foundations and floors. I decided that this would be a little kitchen area, not the castle. This wall project is definitely the largest one I have taken on so far. Making these fences are pretty easy. It's just placing a stone fence foundation and then a large stone wall on top of that. Then rinse and repeat for the entire of the perimeter. But when your perimeter is as big as mine in this scenario, yeah, it's gonna take a while. It may have taken 10 days, but I honestly don't regret a single thing. Nothing is getting in. Day 47, I returned home and spent the entire day moving everything that I had in my original base onto the raft. Structures, everything. And as I set sail, I was really excited to populate the new base. And then something terrible happened. Oh no! Before I had even registered what was going on, all my stuff, 30 days of work, was sinking to the bottom of the ocean. All of it was gone. The resources, structures, everything. Fortunately, I lost none of my dinos since my cryopods were in my inventory, but this hurt. This hurt a lot. Pretty much your average Ark moment. Day 48, as I was flying to the location where my new fortress would be, I just felt this sense of determination. If this game just wanted to take all that stuff from me just like that, I wouldn't just come back from this. Now I was about to build one of the greatest bases I have ever built on this channel. Before I got back to my new home though, I found this purple drop with a Mastercraft frog saddle. I'll take it. Once I was back, I immediately began clearing a bunch of space so I could get to work building. Day 49, I immediately got to work laying the foundation for my keep. In the past, I've done square shapes or circular shapes and then kinda improvised off of that, but this time, I wanted to set a completely unique shape at the base. I didn't really have a specific idea of what I wanted this shape to be, but once I finished the layout and got the outline done, it looked pretty good. I could work with this. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, well, I don't know why I keep making all these creative mode things in survival. Getting all the resources for this is just awful. On day 53, I had finally finished the foundation to my keep, and so it was time to start working on the walls. The day after, I had a bunch of crashing issues when I was trying to start up the game, but I got it figured out and could continue building. As I built the walls, I started feeling inspired by the Lord of the Rings city of Minas Tirith. If you look in the city, city, it's hard to miss the giant stone that just juts out from the center and rises majestically. I wanted to replicate this in my own way. To do that, I would need to make multiple levels in height. I had to make an inner wall as well as an outer wall. After finagling with the design a bit, on day 56, it had a better shape. On day 53, I had finally finished the foundation to my keep, and so it was time to start working on the walls. The day after, I had a bunch of crashing issues when I was trying to start up the game, but I got it figured out and could continue building. As I built the walls, I started feeling inspired by the Lord of the Rings city of Minas Tirith. If you look in the city, it's hard to miss the giant stone that just juts out from the center and rises majestically. I wanted to replicate this in my own way. To do that, I would need to make multiple levels in height. I had to make an inner wall as well as an outer wall. After finagling with the design a bit, on day 56, it had a better shape. On day 57, I began work on the lower platform/ramparts. I decided to use wooden ceilings for this so it would contrast the stone. I left the central area open because that would be my huge crafting hub. I added a little catwalk on the back wall of the crafting hub, and honestly it was a nice touch, even though I didn't think I'd have any use for it. Then on day 60, it was time to work on the upper platform, which I made out of stone. I was a little bit more prepared for this in terms of resources, so I managed to finish it all in one day. On day 57, I began work on the lower platform/ramparts. I decided to use wooden ceilings for this so it would contrast the stone. I left the central area open because that would be my huge crafting hub. I added a little catwalk on the back wall of the crafting hub, and honestly it was a nice touch, even though I didn't think I'd have any use for it. Then on day 60, it was time to work on the upper platform, which I made out of stone. I was a little bit more prepared for this in terms of resources, so I managed to finish it all in one day. Day 61, I began mapping out the next level, which would be the throne room. I also wanted it to have its own unique shape, so I had to use a pillar because the snap points wouldn't allow me to use the shape I wanted to. By the end of the day, I had a nice little shape cut out for it, and it was time to fill it in. Day 62, I filled in the gaps under the platform I had just made for the throne room with walls of its own. I wasn't able to do this before because the snap points on the floor wouldn't permit it, but now that I had ceiling snap points, it was a piece of cake. Day 63, I took a little break from working on the throne room and went and cleaned up the walls down below a bit more. I added some railings down to the outside of the lower levels, as well as some pillars on the lower walls so they would have some more texture. Day 64, I began building up the walls of the throne room. Day 65, I finished the outer walls of the throne room, so now I could start working on the ceiling. The little triangular part jutting out here made it a little bit difficult, and I couldn't quite do the sloped ceiling like I wanted to there. So I just improvised by putting in a stone platform with a stairway leading up to the main platform. The last little bit of the keep that I would add would just be a little bedroom at the very top, which I could make all nice and homely. Day 66, I put the final finishing touches on the bedroom, which meant everything except the windows were finally done. And I gotta say, this design is completely of my own make, and I'm really proud of it. Now that I needed windows though, that meant I needed a lot of metal and crystal, because the metal and crystal that I previously had may or may not be at the bottom of the ocean. So I dropped any unnecessary weight and headed over to the nearest mountain so I could get as much crystal and metal as I could carry. Once I returned home, I reorganized my smithy, and then the game crashed, so I lost all of my harvesting progress. This freaking sucks. After I caught up on the little bit of progress that I lost, on day 68, I went on a second metal and crystal run. Now that I had metal and crystal, I still needed cementing paste in order to make the greenhouse doors. I managed to find only one by the redwoods, but it was clear to me that I would have to go further south if I wanted to find more. Sure enough, on day 69, I found a bunch of beaver dams on the south shores. I guess my PC thought it was being really funny because it decided to give me a blue screen of death halfway through the day. From that point on, I wasn't actually able to get back into this world because the game would simply close. My world had been straight up corrupted, so I pretty much lost 69 days of work. Nice. There was no way I was going to start over, so I pretty much just went right back into creative mode and pretty much tried to get myself right back to where I was. Obviously, I couldn't get everything exactly to the way it was before the world corruption, but I got it pretty damn close. Haha, Chufi 1, Arc 0. I'm definitely not crying as I'm saying this. After getting everything back to day 70 and roughly close to where it was before the corruption, on day 70 and 71, I filled in the window gaps to my keep. At this point, I was belligerently saving like every 5 minutes. I was so paranoid. Day 72, I needed to get silica pearls again, cause Well, yeah, all of them went to the bottom of the drink. I tried using my dolphin, but a bunch of dangerous things started assaulting me, so I gave up on that. Instead, I just swam around in the shallower areas where the monsters under my bed couldn't get me and picked up pearls there. Well, until it got too cold anyway, then I needed to leave. On day 73, I realized there were some structures that I had before the corruption that I forgot to put down, but they were easy enough to make, so I just went and crafted them. I started crafting a whole bunch of narcotic, and while I waited for those to finish, I cooked a bunch of meat in the campfires I had set up in the kitchen area. Hold on, speaking of the kitchen, it's still just a platform. Let's fix that. Thanks to the fact that I had a mammoth and a doedicurus, I finished the kitchen on day 74. Now I set off to find oil. I didn't think I'd get a lot unless if I found like a basilow or something. Even then, I don't think I could kill one right now. Not unless if I wanted a bunch of mantas to come turn me into confetti. The only oil I found was through trilobites, and it wasn't that much. I did kill a few, but it wouldn't be enough. Day 75, I tried swimming deeper to see if I could find more oil, and this did the trick, because that's where oil rocks were spawning. I had to be really careful with my oxygen though, because I wasn't trying to lose even more stuff to the ocean. When I had harvested all the ones I could find, I returned home and made myself a fabricator and got electricity going. I'm also realizing right now that it took me over 40 days to get electricity back. I understand that I was building for most of that time, but it still doesn't change the fact that that's a long time to recover. Day 76, I went looking to see if I could find any high-level tames. I'd honestly take a high-level female Rex. I know I had like 5 before the corruption, but I only gave myself 2 after the corruption because I was only going to use 2. I also looked for beaver dams, but I found nothing. I really needed cementing paste. Finally, I found another singular beaver dam close to the redwoods, but I got distracted from that when I saw a level 120 otter. Taming it was a piece of cake, and you already know I had to name that thing Uwu Face. The rest of the day was spent on a metal run because I had used up my previous supply building windows, and if I wanted that industrial forge, industrial cooker, etc., I would need so much more. I finished up my metal run and returned home on day 78. I had collected a metric butt ton of metal, so it was gonna take a while for it to smelt. In the meantime, I had placed down some artifact pedestals and some lights that I had crafted. The idea is to have all my artifact pedestals lining up straight up to the throne. It was gonna be really cool. Day 79, I began building a new structure, which would be my hatchery. I wasn't gonna make it super crazy like the keep, but I did want it to look nice. I continued working on it throughout the next day, and by the end of day 80, it was all done. You might be asking yourself, why are you building so many little buildings? Why not put it all in one? Well, for me, I kind of want to capture that aesthetic of a city inside a wall, and so to do that, I would need multiple buildings, but I want them each to have their own function, like the hatchery, the kitchen, the keep. I'll probably have a stable at some point, etc. Day 81, I thirsted for some adventure. It had been a while, so I paid a visit to the northeastern cave that housed the artifact of the Massive. All I really needed was my thylacoleo, but those bats were not messing around. On 2 different occasions, I got mega rabies. I had plenty of health, so I wasn't ever really in danger, but it still didn't make it any less dicey. As I continued making my way deeper into the cave, I came across a drop with an ascendant blueprint for a chitin breastplate and hide boots. Heck yeah! Getting the artifact was a piece of cake, mostly because I had murdered everything else that got in my way. On my way home though, for some reason I was freezing once again and nearly died, but the important part is that I didn't. Day 82, my refining forges were a bit low on fuel, so with the help of my mammoth, I refilled them with wood. I was getting to the point where I needed more storage and organization, so I made a whole bunch of large storage boxes and began populating the room right under my throne room. I had plans to label these later, but for the time being I would just have to throw stuff in there and kind of make it up as I go. I was still waiting on the metal to smelt, and on top of that, I still needed one more resource before I could start making more advanced structures. Organic polymer. So I set off to go find some penguins to murder. The first place I went to obviously was the iceberg, because back in Ark Survival Evolved, that's where they all spawned. I didn't find anything over there, but since I was there, I got a bunch of the oil rocks. Just a crime of opportunity. After a bit more looking, I finally found some penguins and got to killing. I did run into an alpha carno at one point and started a tussle. I was starting to lose that battle, so I baited him down to the water where I could bite him without retaliation. I did have a couple scary moments where I got too close to the water and I fell off, but the carno didn't seem to care too much, so by the grace of God I was okay. Once I killed the carno, I realized that there was another alpha carno just along the shoreline. He was weaker, so I killed him too. Day 84, and I'm still killing penguins.
I'm sorry, little one.
At one point, I noticed a Utyrannus getting a little bit too close for my comfort, so I decided to not be greedy and cut my losses and leave. It was more than what I needed, so I was already fine. When I got home, the metal had finished smelting and I made myself an industrial forge. There was some excess metal as well, so I made some refrigerators for the kitchen. With the extra storage space and means to preserve things, I organized a little bit more. Day 85, I set up some preserving bins so I could hold on to my organic polymer in the crafting hub. After crafting the forge and all those refrigerators, I was pretty much spent in terms of metal, so now it was time for another run. I had just made it to the mountain when I saw this level 120 Allosaurus, and I knew I needed it. Getting the components for the trap took some time, but when I finally had everything I needed, it was time to trap it. I quickly realized though that it was kind of stuck in the mesh on this corner there, so I improvised and placed a wall right behind it. This probably shouldn't have worked, but it did. I knocked out the Allosaurus and began harvesting more metal. Day 86, the Allosaurus tamed. I had gotten plenty of metal at that point, so I cryoed him and returned home. While I waited for the metal, I crafted and placed 3 feeding troughs. Even after spawning all of my original tames back after the world corruption, I hadn't really given them any food. I tried to place a generator inside my hatchery so I could run air conditioners later, but it wouldn't let me because it said I had a structure limit. Okay.
What?
I had 2 generators in my keep, one on the lower level in the crafting hub so I could power my forge, fabricator, etc., and 1 generator on a higher level, just so all my lights could be powered. Generators work like water in this game, where it's kind of like Bluetooth electricity, so I tried raising my generator by building out my catwalk so I could only have 1 generator in the building. This actually worked because now the radius got all of my lights and all of my electronic structures.
Sometimes my genius, it generates gravity.
Then I decided it was time to get some water tames. I don't think I've ever had an easier time taming sharks, because as soon as I got into the water, I was being attacked by this level 130 male. Knocking him out was a piece of cake, especially when he started trying to swim away. While the male was taming, I went looking for a female to accompany him, and I kid you not, right beyond the drop-off point, in the mesh, there was a level 135 female. It was so unbelievably stuck. Easiest knockout ever.
Help! Help! Help me!
And after that, it was just a matter of sitting around and waiting for both of them to tame. The male tamed before the end of the day, and I named him Bruce. On day 88, the female tamed up, and I named her Brucina. I know, I'm so creative sometimes. I then swam south to Herbivore Island on my dolphin, hoping to find myself a basilo. There were some basilos around there, but the only thing that greeted me was a giant pack of sharks. They cornered me on dry land, and before I could cryo my dolphin, they ended up killing it. I don't know why this was so upsetting, because I had other means of water transportation, but this just upset me. For the rest of the day, I went around on my RG killing things for their trophies. Who doesn't like good old-fashioned murder as a coping mechanism? To my FBI agent who watches every one of my videos, you know this is a joke. Please don't put me on the list. Day 89, I made a pit stop at my base to drop off the fruits of my hunting. I just went around and leveled up my current sharks. I didn't really need to, I just wanted something to do. I did come across a level 115 Alpha Megalodon, and before I fought it, I made sure to clear off all the other sharks in the area. Yeah, that's right. Tear him to pieces. Day 90, I traveled back to Herbivore Island and avenged my dolphin by killing the other sharks using my own. There were 2 basilos in the area, a level 15 and a level 75. Obviously, I was gonna tame the higher level, so I killed the 15 for its bountiful oil. Once the basilo was done taming, I returned home and released all my sea creatures into the lake and then bred my sharks, as one does, I guess. Day 91, I left to get some more organic polymer as my supply had run out. I came across a blue drop with a Mastercraft crossbow. Okay, while this game might have many flaws, at least the drops are a million times better than those in Ark Survival Evolved. I found a family of penguins strolling on the beach, and I did the, well, usual unethical stuff. Listen, it's not like these penguins were gonna use the organic polymer, right? I found even more penguins farther down the beach, but then I had an idea.
I have an idea!
After I finished off all of the adults in the area, I imprinted a male baby penguin and a female baby penguin. I think you can see where this is going. Before I left back home, an enraged Megatherium attacked me, and despite the fact that it was only a level 15, it was very strong. Now, I could have just flown away, that would have actually been the smarter thing to do, but I think my pride kept me from leaving, and I barely managed to kill it before it could kill me. I began raising my baby Megalodon on day 92. In between imprints, I grinded for cementing paste until I had just enough to make an industrial cooker. Then I wanted some more action, so I cryoed my boy Boogus and went to go on another cave run. This time it was the one that housed the artifact of the clever. With Boogus, it was an easy stroll in, killing everything that got in my way until I got to the artifact. As I was leaving the cave on day 93, I ran into a Megalosaurus, which was horrifying, honestly. I got lucky though and managed to kill it before it could do the grab attack. Okay, totally unrelated. Does anybody have a spare pair of pants? I wasn't done caving quite yet though. I went to go visit the Cave of the Hunter, which I had been previously in this video, but then I lost the artifact in the drink, so I had to get it again, you know?
We like the cold dark, yes, precious, yes, but we don't like bugses, no, nasty bugses.
While I was down there, I grabbed some more obsidian too, since I still needed some more artifact pedestals, and why not? Then I just grabbed the artifact and squeezed my way back out of the cave. On my way home on day 94, I made a pit stop at a nearby mountain so I could grab even more obsidian so I could craft the last of the artifact pedestals. I returned home and placed the pedestals as well as the artifacts themselves. The remainder of the day, I finally started going more in depth on my organization system, which included labeling with signs. I didn't really reach a point of satisfaction with my organization until day 95, and when I did, I took my shark child, Bruce 1, out to sea to see if I could find an anglerfish to tame. These guys are supposed to be able to harvest silica pearls at an increased rate, and I'd never used one before. I had to swim deep enough to where they were actually spawning, and there was a whole group of them. All of them were terrible levels except this level 70, which would just have to do. I knocked it out, and while I waited for it to tame, I just healed Bruce. I didn't really do much. After it tamed, I did find this blue drop on Carno Island that was kind of sketchy to go get, but it did have a ramshackle sickle, which to me was worth it at the time, and I made it out of there without getting scratched. Day 96, I took my angler out for a spin for the first time, and yeah, they weren't kidding. This thing could collect so much silica. It was in the deep ocean, however, and that's where the bad things like to live, like this angry Mosasaurus. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, I'm sorry. Now that I had a very, very satisfying amount of silica pearls, I went home and crafted a ton of electronics, which ironically would leave me without metal. Go figure. Well, back to the mountain for me, I guess. Teehee! Day 97 was very grindy. Once I finished my metal run, I went out to get stone so I could make a whole bunch of cementing paste. Then, after that, back to the Arctic area so I could get myself some more organic polymer. When I returned from my organic polymer run on day 98, I had enough to make a chemistry bench. With it, I crafted a bunch of cementing paste and ridiculous amounts of spark powder. Well, ridiculous for now. I know I'll eventually run out anyway. Speaking of spark powder, most of it would actually be used in these preserving bins, which I'm setting up in the kitchen so I can make jerky by the loads. Day 99, I harvested even more flint stone and a bit of raw metal so I could make a toilet later. When I got home, I crafted 12 air conditioners and then went to the hatchery and placed them in a circular fashion around the generator. We officially have a functional hatchery, boys. Since I had a whole bunch of spark powder and charcoal, I was able to make a whole bunch of gunpowder, which meant making a whole bunch of ammo of all kinds. And we're here at last. Day 100. I decided to take a break and just go drop hunting for the day, and that turned out to be a great decision. I mean, this one drop literally had Mastercraft flak boots. That's great. That's amazing. Okay, maybe I was being a little too excited because the rest of the drops were mediocre at best. Good loot, just not great loot. As the clock ticked closer to midnight, I sat on my throne and just kind of thought about everything I had experienced up until this point. I had to deal with so much crashing in this playthrough, and I mean so much. Some of them nearly screwing me over entirely. I may have conquered these issues too, but I still have a long road ahead. If you thought I'm ending this here, no way. All I gotta say is that I'm just getting started, because this is only the beginning.